What's up, guys? It is your boy Simone Fan 101. Now, first of all, I finally ate some soup, so my throat is at least a little bit better. You're still going to hear coughing in this review, most likely. But at least it's not going to be nearly as bad as it was, especially towards the end of my Thor: The Dark World review. See? Just happened. But I had some nice warm soup, and that definitely calmed things down a little bit down here, so there's that. Though it was about half an hour ago or so how long it'll last, I don't know. Anyway, after unleashing my bowels on Thor: The Dark World, and I'm not saying a movie's a horrible movie. It wasn't a horrible film, but much like with Captain Marvel, the mistakes they made there were completely awful, and anybody a mile away could have seen that they were a bad idea. So after the extremely underwhelming Dark World film with Thor, we got a follow-up. We got one of the most underwhelming one of the most underwhelming, maybe not underviewed, but just a very underwhelming MCU film. One of the most underwhelming films to one of the most highly praised films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I am, of course, talking about Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, as I'm reviewing the films, actually reviewing them, not just simply watching them to kick back, this film, in my opinion, up until Infinity War, because it's still kind of tied until I rewatch that film, Captain America: The Winter Soldier was, in my opinion, the best and my absolute favorite of all the films in the MCU, for various reasons that I'll get to. Quick thing behind the scenes. Joe Johnston, who in a way served his purpose well with the first Captain America film, was replaced, or the next film already had the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe Russo, who are, of course, a team of two brothers who apparently must be very close in order for them to work together, and have of course taken over with the reins of directing Captain America: Winter Soldier. They would also go on to direct Captain America: Civil War and Avengers: Infinity War. Now, before this film, they were only known for doing two other films: Welcome to Collinwood and You and Me and Dupree. Now, I don't know too much about those films, and I don't know if they were any good or not. So, for me, this was kind of new territory because, again, we were working with directors that we didn't know about. Just turning on my fan. Still is Arizona, after all, especially in the spring. So, it was kind of a risk. Oh, man, did that risk pay off. Oh. So, noticeably, this film had a lower budget than the previous films, such as Thor: Ragnarok, Avengers: Infinity War, even not Iron Man 2, but I know for a fact it had a lower budget in the last Iron Man 3. That's what I'm thinking of. Had a lower budget in the last three films, with $177 million, and it made a big box office back with $714 million. So clearly, this film was a hit. Maybe not as a hit as, say, Iron Man 3 or Avengers, but it was a hit. This film was released worldwide, or maybe not worldwide, in March and April of 2014, just 6 months after Thor: The Dark World, and my God, did we need it. So, okay, what's the plot? Well, it's 2 years after the events of the first Avengers film, The Battle of New York. Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, once again played by Chris Evans, is working now for S.H.I.E.L.D., under, of course, director Nick Fury. And since then, as we've seen in the first mission of the movie, he's firmly been trained. Now, in the first two films, Steve Rogers was mostly a street fighter. He fought with his wit, and only used the shield as a throwing item. Didn't really use it for too much else. But yeah, and even in the Avengers, he was mostly a street fighter. For In this film, though, we see him do martial arts. We see him do a ton of moves that look pretty cool. And of course, this is due no small part to from what I know, is the training that he had in between the Avengers film and Captain America: Winter Soldier. Now, this film starts out. We see him running. He meets Sam Wilson, who of course was a former pararescue guy in during the Iraq days. Rogers is pulled out. He works a mission to with the counterterrorism group called Strike, or the Strike Team. That of course is also under SHIELD, and they free a vessel called the Lumerian Star from a guy named George Batroc, who is actually played by Ultimate Fighter guy by the name of George St. Pierre. Yes, an Ultimate Fighter in this film plays technically an Algerian pilot, though he mostly speaks French. So yeah. They rescue the Lumerian Star, the people. Jasper Sitwell, who, if you recall in Thor and in Avengers, was the bald guy with the glasses. There was even a couple of, as I was watching the Blu-rays stuff, a couple of short films that had Jasper Sitwell, and he was actually pretty entertaining, and was even the good guy in one of them. He was like the guy you were rooting for, sort of. Now, what's going on here is that after rescuing them, things are different. Because even though he's leading a team, of course, Black Widow has orders of her own from Nick Fury that she didn't even tell Captain America, which gets him understandably pissed off, and Batroc escapes. And he even goes to Fury about this, and even though Fury lets him in on the details of Project Insight, which is 3 helicarriers that are connected to satellites that can take down terrorists from God knows how many miles away. Steve obviously is not happy with it because it's like they didn't even do the crime yet. They and of course his whole thing is that, look, what you're doing is not freedom. You're ruling people through fear. Clearly Fury doesn't have a problem doing what he's doing. And as it turned out, it came back to bite him in the ass. But, Fury does eventually find something wrong, goes to Alexander Pierce, who is one of the heads at SHIELD, and also apparently is a council member of some sort, or at least works with the Security Council of SHIELD, and allows for Project Insight to be delayed. Now, what I like about this film is the overall story, and the fact that Steve Rogers has problems living with the future. And it's not like, ooh, what's that tee-hee-ha. Like, you've seen it in a lot of films. Even Thor to a small degree. You see it in a lot of films where it's like, you have the guy in a different environment, he makes himself look like a jackass, and more than anything, he's looking at things that we think as normal, and he thinks is like, what the fuck is this? But thankfully, they don't take the route that's been taken a million times. Instead, they take the route of him just not being able to deal with the fact that everyone he knows is gone. He doesn't really feel like asking anyone. I mean, it's not that he's never interested, but he's not, he doesn't pressure himself to ask anyone out on dates. All of his friends are gone. Anybody who is ever known from his previous life is dead, all except for Peggy Carter, who is a very, very old woman in this film, with great CG to make Haley Atwell look really old. And I usually give spoilers in my reviews. I'm not going to give spoilers on exactly what transpires in this scene, but by the end of this scene, you're with Peggy Carter, the one scene, you're heartbroken, because it's like, my God, I can't believe two people who genuinely wanted to be together right when Steve Rogers crashed the plane back in 1945, I can't believe it ended up this way. And it's legitimately heartbreaking, the fact that what Steve has to probably go through every time he visits her. I'm not going to reveal exactly what happens, but my God, it's just sad. And it makes me sad thinking about it. Like, what does Steve have to think about all this? So he's dealing with that, but, of course, back to Fury. Fury on his way to meet with Maria Hill because he knows some shit is going down. He is ambushed by a ton of assailants who, for whatever reason, are trying to kill him. And when he seemingly gets away from them, he's attacked by an assassin that we don't know what the name of is yet, and we only see a mask and like these goggle-looking things. Later, we see Fury in Steve Rogers' apartment, trying to hide from them. He actually trusts Steve because he knows Steve is not going to roll over or is not going to be compromised. He tells him that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s compromised, and immediately after telling him this, he's shot by this mystery assailant, and Steve's apartment neighbor, who he actually asked out on a date like a couple minutes earlier, is revealed to be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and revealed to essentially spy on him and protect and watch over him. Steve goes to chase the assailant. The assailant escapes, and is even able to block Steve Rogers' shield. Now, the next day at S.H.I.E.L.D., by that time, Fury seemingly killed. He dies at the hospital. But before he died, or before the agent came in, his neighbor agent, Fury gave Steve Rogers a hard drive. What was the hard drive? Well, that's what Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, was taking from the Lumerian Star while Steve Rogers was dealing with Batroc and the pirates. So he gives him the hard drive. Steve finds it, though later Black Widow gets her hands on it, and thankfully she's on his side. Steve goes to Triskelion, which is basically the headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D., and even after meeting with Alexander Pierce, is attacked by a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents for whatever reason. He eventually escapes Triskelion, tries to go to find the hard drive, finds Black Widow with it, and Black Widow tells him that the person that most likely killed Nick Fury, especially with the details that Captain America gave her, most likely was the Winter Soldier, who's been tasked with many assassination missions for the last 50 years, seemingly never ages, because he's still very, very much young. They're on the run. They're trying to figure out exactly what the fuck is going on. The Strike Team are after them wherever they go. They eventually thanks to Black Widow, they hacked the data in the flash drive to figure out where it came from, and they eventually go to New Jersey, in the old army base where Steve Rogers originally trained in the first film. They go to a building that apparently was the first location of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was founded by Peggy Carter, Colonel Phillips, of course, that was Tommy Lee Jones' character, and Howard Stark. In like a basement area, they find a supercomputer, like an old style almost 1980s looking supercomputer that has the consciousness of Arnim Zola, who of course was the scientist that worked with the Red Skull in the first Captain America film, and once again he is played, this time though voiced by Toby Jones. Though there were a couple of pictures with him and one or two scenes where he was briefly filmed. Zola reveals to him that the horrible truth. Now, this is spoilers, but it's been 5 years since the film came out, and I give spoilers in my review anyway, except for Captain Marvel, because that film just came out. So what's going on? Well, Arnim Zola straight up tells both Captain America and Black Widow that pretty much since S.H.I.E.L.D. was founded after World War II, Hydra, thanks to Arnim Zola, was secretly operating within the ranks of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it has grown more and more throughout the years. And as a matter of fact, they were the ones who killed Nick Fury. They were the ones who operates the Winter Soldier and goes on assassination missions when things don't exactly go their way. They take in the big gun, basically. And their whole plan is that instead of waging an all-out war, instead they're creating chaos and creating bad situations to happen, so that way humanity can surrender its freedom for its security. Thus, the real purpose, as it turns out, of Project Insight, which was explained later by Jasper Sitwell. Project Insight is to pretty much kill several million people in order to eliminate every single person that is or can be a possible threat, no matter how minuscule it is, to Hydra. If they're a threat, kill them using Zola's algorithm. Now, before they actually get this information, though, S.H.I.E.L.D. launches a missile which destroys the bunker, and it's later revealed when they meet up with Sam Wilson, they deduce that Pierce has to be the Hydra leader. Yes, Alexander Pierce, played by the great Robert Redford, is Hydra's leader. Has to be, because he was the only one to have allowed a missile launch on domestic soil. So yeah, they go to Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson, who later reveals to have a Falcon suit and is revealed basically to be the Falcon. They also deduce, with his help, they also deduce that Jasper Sitwell, who was on the Lumerian Star with Zola's algorithm, is also a member of Hydra. Yes, Jasper Sitwell, the guy I just said a few minutes ago, was kind of a protagonist in the previous films, is now an antagonist. Kind of makes you turn things on your head, right? So yeah, he tells Steven, Black Widow, and Falcon that what the purpose of Zola's algorithm is to kill as many people that could be a possible threat to Hydra, including Bruce Banner, including a guy by the name of Stephen Strange, who of course will get his own movie 2.5 years later. And with his help, or should I say, with his forced volunteering, shall we say, they tend to stop the helicarriers, but they are stopped by the Winter Soldier in what was a fantastic action sequence on the highway in the city. And during the fight, it's revealed that the Winter Soldier is in fact Bucky Barnes, who actually survived who was thought to be dead in the first film after he fell off the train near the end of the film. But as a matter of fact, he actually survived the fall and was captured by Hydra and was experimented on, and that's when they made the metal arm for him. And they basically put him on ice whenever they need him to wait, and they take him off ice whenever they need him for any sort of mission. Whether it's the people at Hydra or Hydra agents in other countries, that's his purpose. So yeah, they basically use him as their friggin' lab rat and all that, basically all that shit. But the other twist is that Nick Fury, despite seemingly dying, is actually alive. He actually faked his death in case an assassination attempt were ever to happen. Now, with Fury, he found out, he and Maria Hill, Falcon, Captain America, and Black Widow all, conjure up a plan in order to stop the helicarriers by replacing their control chips with the ones created by Hill and Fury, and the few people that they actually are working with together. World Security Council, earlier in the film, approved yet once again a Project Insight, not knowing the true purpose of why Nick Fury did what he did, which was revealed that he hired Batroc, the Algerian pilot. He hired Batroc to board and take the Lumerian Star, while Black Widow retrieves the information because he thinks that some important information was on those S.H.I.E.L.D. files and on the Lumerian Star, and that's how this whole shit got started, when he just wanted to find out the truth. So that's what happened there, in case you were wondering. World Security Council, they go to oversee the helicarriers launch. There's 3 of them, by the way. And after invading the Triskelion, Steve Rogers takes a mic and reveals to pretty much everyone in the S.H.I.E.L.D. building, for the people who don't and already do know, that Hydra is still alive and well, and they're about to take over everything and kill everyone. And this causes, of course, then basically for lack of a better word, a civil war between the Strike and Insight teams, basically any member of Hydra, as well as any true member of S.H.I.E.L.D. who joined because they wanted to help people, not because they wanted to fuck up the world and do what they wanted. So, long story short, Fury arrives, forces Pierce to, along with Black Widow's help, forces Pierce to release all the S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra information on the internet. Pierce finds a way to kill the members of the Security Council, except for Widow, who came in disguise as the female member of the World Security Council. But thanks to a clever way to get out of it, Fury kills Pierce. Captain America and Falcon are able to put the control chips on 2 of the helicarriers. As they enter the 3rd one, Falcon... fucking does not get count. Falcon is knocked off the helicarrier, and basically his wingsuit is kind of messed up by the Winter Soldier, and has to fight Brock Rumlow, who's basically the leader of the Strike team. While Captain America's got to fight Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes. He eventually, after getting severely wounded, is able to take down the helicarrier by putting the last control chip on the last Insight helicarrier. And yeah, let's just say that god damn it, I hate it when I do that, when I lose track of myself. Yeah, but he's able to put on the last helicarrier, and instead of killing hundreds of thousands of people right there, instead, the only thing that's destroyed or killed are the people on board the helicarriers, and the helicarriers themselves are destroyed, and pretty much every single Hydra agent on them. Pierce, like I said, is killed. Brock Rumlow barely survives after the Triskelion collapses, thanks to one of the helicarriers ramming into it. Everyone survives, except for maybe Steve Rogers. But after he finally gets through to Bucky Barnes, because Bucky Barnes, his memory has been completely wiped by Hydra. Even when he thought he was slowly regaining his memory of his past, they wiped his mind again, and finally Steve was able to get through to Bucky and make him remember something, thanks to a flashback that was seen early in the movie. Because clearly he still wants to rescue the only real friend that he has left. Of course, the only real friend also that's still similar to his age. And yeah, all that shit goes down. Everything goes down. S.H.I.E.L.D. is basically taken down along with Hydra when the helicarriers were destroyed. So Fury, as the ending shows, Fury goes to another country in order to find other Hydra sleeper agents, basically, because not everyone went, in his words, went down with the ship. Romanoff, Black Widow, is put in front of a government committee, a Senate committee, to be questioned for the things that she did for S.H.I.E.L.D. And she said, "Fuck you! You're not gonna arrest me because we just saved your asses." Even though they took down their intelligence unit was being full of lies, and of course, you know how these people are. They're kind of assholes. But also very worried, understandably so. And the ending shows that Steve and Sam Wilson are going to go after Bucky because Bucky, when he regained his memory, saved Steve's life from drowning in the Potomac River, and then went on the run soon afterward. The mid-credits scene, now, there's 2 things I gotta mention. The mid-credits scene showed a teaser for the events of Avengers Age of Ultron, where Baron von Strucker, who is of course a member of Hydra, was using the scepter from the first Avengers film as a power source that actually and experimented on 2 test subjects. One who are both twins. A young man with superhuman speed, and a young woman with weird-ass psychokinesis telekinetic powers. This, of course, alluding to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, that would eventually make their... Even though they were cameoed here, they made their official debut in Avengers Age of Ultron. And in a post-credits scene, Bucky Barnes visits his own memorial at the Smithsonian Institution, where very early in the film we saw Captain America visit. Basically, it was like a whole dedication to Captain America and the Howling Commandos and everything that went on there. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack, but actually it's very simple. The reason why it took me a lot to explain the plot was because of how intricate and well-crafted the plot is. And I feel like I have to explain everything because that's just me. But unlike with Thor: The Dark World, I'm not going to drone on nearly as much because of how bad everything is, because mostly everything on this film is good to absolutely fantastic. The casting, what can I say? The casting are all on point. You got the main actors like Evans, Johansson, Jackson, Colby Smulders as Hill, but you also got either newer actors or actors you're not as familiar with. Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier, Anthony Mackie as the Falcon, even the other characters that don't get nearly as much screen time as those guys, like Frank Grillo as Brock Rumlow, and Emily Van Camp as a woman later seen to be called Sharon, or early in the film was called Agent 13. And for the one scene that she was in, Haley Atwell was great as an older version of Peggy Carter. And Robert Redford, credit to Robert Redford, this guy fucking nailed it. In my opinion, it was probably the best villain in the MCU so far, except for, of course, Loki. He's second only to Loki, but at this point, is probably one of the best MCU villains up to 2014 standards. Because you can say, like, oh, what's so interesting about him? He's just a guy in a suit. Like, didn't you just rip on Iron Man 3 for doing that? Here's the difference. A, this isn't the Iron Man trilogy where seemingly every villain was a guy in a suit. This film, this guy was very intricate, very plotting, started out seemingly as a good guy and revealed to be a bad guy, was casted very well. I mean, this is Robert Redford we're talking about, an absolutely fantastic actor. Then we have, my lord, the guy did absolutely great, and he's not gonna stand out of like a villain like say Killmonger from Black Panther, or Hela from Thor Ragnarok, or of course the big bad Thanos, or even Loki. But he's just a shade under. He's that good. He's on the level of great villains. He's probably on the lowest tier compared to the rest of what I would call great MCU villains, but he's up there because A, they got a great actor, and B, they made him relatable. Not that you cheered for him, because you sure shit did not cheer for him, but you made him. They made you understand why he's doing what he's doing, and that's the great. When a villain, what makes a great villain, and this is taken right out of wrestling. What makes a great villain is that they have to truly believe they're doing what they're doing, and if they're doing that, that's great. And they have to, believe themselves in that, and not just believe in it and just do it, but also explain why they're doing it, unlike, say, Malekith from Thor: The Dark World. So, pretty much everything that Malekith was, Alexander Pierce wasn't, and all for the better. He didn't need any makeup, he just needed great acting, which is exactly what Robert Redford did. So yeah, Toby Jones, for the one scene that came back, also did good. Even Senator Stern, played by Gary Shandling. Senator Stern, who of course, he was the senator that wanted to take away the Iron Man suit from Tony Stark in Iron Man 2. He was revealed to be a member of Hydra. Probably retired from S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever. Yeah, a member of Hydra, he was a senator. Yeah, that's pretty fucking scary to think about. Someone in that kind of power also having, Hydra connections. Of course, you got some great cameos, like from Stan Lee. Again, you got the Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson cameos at the very end with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. You've got pretty much everyone there, and it's just fantastic how they do it. Maximiliano Hernandez, who of course played Jasper Sitwell, he even did a good job for what it was worth, for the few scenes he was in there. And really changed the tone in terms of him being a good guy in the first two movies he was in, and the shorts as well, into a complete bad guy in this movie. They really got that. So yeah, casting was all great. The action, in terms of the action, was very different from any film, even the first Captain America. The first Captain America had the big lasers, had the big explosions and everything. And to be fair, this movie's got explosions too, but this film is more drenched in the spy thriller and hand-to-hand combat action, and it's done so spectacularly well. The action on the Lumerian Star with the wide shot, with the one wide shot with Captain America running on the bridge. The action in the fight scene in the elevator with Steve Rogers escaping S.H.I.E.L.D. The fight scene on the highway, the battle with the 3 helicarriers. All that is done so fantastically well. And one little thing I want to get to, but I'll get to that in a second. You know, the music. Now, I forgot to mention this in my Thor the Dark World review, and shame on me for saying it, because I did want to mention this, and I tried reminding myself, but I didn't. One of the biggest saving graces of Thor the Dark World was the fact that Brian Tyler, I believe his name was, he did a fantastic score piece on the film. I mean, the music he made for Thor the Dark World was actually very, very good. So I just wanted to say that, you know, for Thor the Dark World. And Captain America the Winter Soldier actually is one of my favorite soundtracks of the entire MCU. That, along with Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, not so surprisingly, also directed by the Russo brothers. Can these guys do no wrong? These guys can do no wrong. Except for maybe, you know, Endgame, but that's not up to them, that's up to Kevin Feige. God damn it. God damn it, Captain Marvel. But yeah, there's so many things that work in this film. The twists work. The action works. The cinematography, what can I say? The shaky cam, I know some people don't like shaky cam, but it works in this film because it shows the emergency and the immediate action that's taking place of people who are just trying to survive. Now, okay, I basically love this film to death. Are there any bad things about the film? Is there anything that I do not like? Oh, wait, before I continue there, I gotta mention one thing. The Captain America suits. Now, as we know, Captain America, they had the silly costume that was meant to make fun of him in the first film. Then later on, they went with the more Kevlar-style World War II based armor, outfit, later in that film. Then in Avengers, the Avengers, they gave him a more comic book style outfit, which it looked so tight, it didn't look right, his helmet didn't look right, didn't even have the chin strap, it just did not look that good of a costume. I mean, it looks good generally, not for the Captain America that we already saw in Captain America: The First Avenger. With this film, they even made fun of the costume, and one of the best jokes in that film, thanks to Loki, they even made fun of the costume, in Thor the Dark World. Even they made fun of, yeah, the costume was really tight looking and honestly, you know, is kind of silly. So for this film, in the beginning of the film, he had the S.H.I.E.L.D. made stealth style Captain America suit, which really looked cool. It was like a stealth suit, essentially. Which, of course, if you're working for S.H.I.E.L.D., you better have a stealth suit. And with the second Captain America suit, they actually used two suits. The one, they had the stealth S.H.I.E.L.D. suit. Then they went back to the old classic World War II suit that was actually in the Smithsonian where Rogers visited early in the film. So for the climax of this film, they actually used the Captain America suit from the first Captain America film. That, I thought, fit That I thought was awesome. I love that. And much like with the Captain America stealth suit and the old suit / new suit, they added back the chin strap, which really adds a level of realism to it. And I think that's what this film does so well. It's realistic. Out of all the films in the MCU, if I had to choose one that was the most realistic, it was this film. Granted, it's Marvel, it's never going to be 100%, but the way it's done, the way it's shot, the way it's acted, it all feels real. It doesn't feel like, at times, they're telling jokes for the sake of telling jokes. If they're telling jokes, it's meant to try to bring levity to the film, not just so it can try to be funny, like fucking Kat Dennings. My fucking god, I hate that character. Okay, but like I was saying a few minutes ago, is there any negatives on this film? Technically, I have two, but they're both so minor. So minor. So it barely counts, but I have to say it. And one of them is not even a fault of this film, it's a fault of the fucking Captain Marvel movie. Remember how in this, you know how there's two different scenes in this film where Nick Fury both mentions his damaged left eye. Technically he still has his eye, but it's damaged. And when he lifts and he says, "Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye." And then later in the film, when he and Pierce unlock S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files on the internet, as well as Hydra's, he lifts his thing, and it looks like, it's a badass moment. He's like, you need to keep both eyes open. And when he lifts it, it almost looks like an explosion, or like an electrified wire, like hit his eye. It looked fucked up. And yes, those two badass scenes or lines that he said in this film are not completely negated, but I can't take them nearly as seriously now because of Captain Marvel and what they did with his eye. The whole Flurkin thing, how a fucking cat basically cut his eye. Fucking retarded. Retarded! And the second thing, and again, this is a very minor one, it has to do with Arnim Zola. Now, some people might say, oh, is it because he was in a computer in like the 1980s and it felt too goofy? No! It's a comic book film. You expect something like that. I expected it, and they played it so seriously that I just ran with it. But I did find one particular thing funny. Now, I just watched the film, and maybe I'm missing something here. But even though he was all for the Hydra cause, I got the feeling that in the first Captain America film, that Arnim Zola, while he was for the cause, he was working essentially under the Red Skull almost forcefully. Like, yeah, I'm kind of part of this cause now just by associating myself with Red Skull so that I won't die. And he could have killed himself at the end of Captain America the First Avenger because he wanted to die for his cause. Whereas in this film, he's almost taken over the role of the Red Skull in terms of the evil-ass Hydra dude. And I'm like, wasn't the idea of Toby Jones' character in the first film was that he wasn't completely 100% behind Hydra, even though he was behind it in some way, there was a sense of forcefulness there. Instead, in this film, he's completely behind the side of Hydra. Maybe I'm missing something. No, maybe I'm missing something, but I can't help but feel that, it's just a little bit different. But look, people change. Different things do happen. Either way, this film was fucking fantastic. It's absolutely amazing. It's incredible. It's well shot. It's well written. It's well acted. It's well told in terms of both the script writing and the story. I gotta give this a 10 out of 10. This is my 10 out of 10 film. My first of maybe 4 or 5. Maybe even 6, depending. For the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a 10 out of 10 film. Fantastic. Well done. Pretty much everything about it was great. It was grand. It wasn't as big as Iron Man or Thor: The Dark World in terms of scope, but it was still big. But most importantly, they told a story that really made you care about the characters. 10 out of 10. That's my score. Until next time, guys, I will see you next time when I review Guardians of the Galaxy. Until then, be well, stay safe. I'll see you later. Until next time, guys, peace.